everyone, and welcome back to AustinPlus, where today we are talking about the Star Wars sequels. Because the Star Wars sequel trilogy began with some of the highest expectations in cinematic history, a new generation of characters, the return of legacy heroes, and the continuation of one of the most iconic franchises ever created. And it should have been a great guaranteed success. Instead, the trilogy ended up being one of the most divisive entries in modern blockbuster filmmaking. So, today we are answering the question, or trying to answer the question, what went wrong with the Star Wars sequels? Now, this is a Star Wars video. You may be wondering why I don't have my brother here, Star Wars nerd. Mainly because this video would be an hour long about him ranting how much he hates the sequels, so it's just me today. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first, I think, point is to carry on a franchise like Star Wars after Revenge of the Sith and then obviously Return of the Jedi. It is the weight of an impossible legacy that was put on its shoulders, and I also think that's why it went wrong. One of the biggest challenges facing the sequel trilogy was the expectation. Star Wars is not just a film franchise, it's a cultural institution. Any continuation of the original saga had to satisfy longtime fans, casual audiences, and studio expectations simultaneously. And this created a creative environment where every decision carried enormous pressure and scrutiny. In saying that to start with is obviously bold, I'm aware, but it's true. There's a big legacy, and that's what there's many points in this, but that's also why it fell short. But also, it lacked probably one of the biggest unified story plans in the world. One of the, most consistent criticisms of the sequel trilogy is the absence of a clearly defined long-term narrative structure. Because while individual films have strong moments, the trilogy often felt reactive rather than planned, and the key story decisions appear to shift between installments, resulting in tonal narrative inconsistencies that just weaken the overall cohesion. Now we're getting onto the specific problems with each film, so buckle in folks, because you're in for quite a rant. So first of all, The Force Awakens. A pretty okay interpretation to, a reintroduction, shall we say, to Star Wars. Not that bad, pretty okay. Just went shit from there. But the first film in the trilogy relied heavily on nostalgia and structural similarities to A New Hope. And it kind of worked, because while this helped reintroduce audiences to the universe, it also established a foundation that leaned more on the familiarity than originality. But this created expectations that the story would later evolve into something more distinct. But that transition was not fully delivered. Taking me to The Last Jedi. I think, first of all, The Force Awakens introduced familiarity and dependency, and that was where you went wrong. I think, as much as it introduced new characters, it went completely sideways, up, down, hit the fucking floor with Last Jedi, because The Last Jedi was the biggest battle for fans, because it was subversion and then continuity was the biggest battle besides Kylo Ren and Rey, but that was the biggest problem. The second film attempted to challenge traditional Star Wars storytelling by subverting expectations and then deconstructing established ideas. And while this approach was praised by some for its ambition, it also created division due to its treatment of legacy characters and its departure from setup elements. And this was introduced in the previous film. So it felt very repetitive, but they didn't know how to continue on, and then they just blurted out this film. Someone said, I saw this on a podcast, I don't remember which one, but someone said The Last Jedi is better than The New Hope.
What? What the fuck?
I don't think you should be watching Star Wars if you think that, and if you're a Star Wars fan, that's gonna hurt you. It is the stupidest, thought ever. But, I think this all goes to shit when we all, think about the rise of Skywalker, and how it had a lot of retconning pressure, the return of Palpatine, and you had so much to give, and gave us so little, and you did everything wrong. Everything! The final film in the trilogy was tasked with resolving conflicting narratives and directions, As a result, it often felt like it was correcting or reversing decisions made in the earlier entries. Now, this led to a compressed storyline and attempted to satisfy multiple interpretations of the trilogy simultaneously, reducing the narrative clarity and emotional payoff from here to here, down below the ground. Like, it's like bedrock in Minecraft. The Rise of Skywalker, they made a character who isn't a Skywalker, gave her a yellow lightsaber and went, poof, there you go, Rise of Skywalker. No! I can't believe what they did with the Rise of Skywalker. I really can't. Because, like, they killed off Kylo Ren. Oh, yeah, we've got force healing now. Yeah, we stabbed him with a lightsaber, didn't kill him. That's when all this shit started. It carried on to Ahsoka as well. It just, oh, it's dreadful. This started a boulder effect on everything, and it just didn't carry on well. And having just done so during May, I basically watched every other film before I went to go and see Mandalorian and Grogu. By the way, go check out that review. And while I was doing that, I obviously watched the Rise of Skywalker. I'm like, I watched this once, I thought it was good. Why did I think it was good? It is dreadful. I don't know how you make such a fantastic franchise categorically shit. The biggest problem, I'd say the quintessential problem of this whole the sequels, was handling legacy characters like Luke, Leia, Han Solo. All carried immense emotional weight for audiences, not even from like the prequels, from the sequels. However, their roles in the sequel trilogy just became one of the most debated aspects of the series. Leia Organa dying, Luke Skywalker being a Force ghost and then going, yeah, I'm sleeping now, bye. And Han Solo's, like, trying to save his son and gets killed in the process. Probably the worst death in Star Wars, may I add. Many fans felt their arcs didn't feel aligned with the legacy established in the original trilogy. No shit! Which created tension between nostalgia and reinvention. Another thing is the very incomplete arcs with this. Not that this trilogy had enough bloody problems. Rey, Finn, Kylo Ren, 3 characters. Rey was supposed to be the side character, and then Finn was supposed to be the main character. Flip them on the head. Fine, don't really care about that. But the new central characters had strong narrative potential, especially Rey in A Force Awakens, because when they did the promotional stuff for Force Awakens, they made it seem like Finn was supposed to be the main character. Quickly changed that for Force Awakens. As I said, doesn't bother me, but it didn't make sense for when Last Jedi came around. Their development often felt very uneven across the whole of the trilogy. Rey's identity arc, Finn's transition from the Stormtrooper to the Resistance fighter, yes, you get it, but it's very, obvious. And Kylo Ren's internal conflict, where all compelling ideas that were not always given consistent or fully resolved storytelling across all films. With Kylo Ren, you only got to see that at the end of film 3, but you could see it in the first film, and it was the most ultimate rage bait in Star Wars I've ever seen in my life. There was a lot of creative turnover for Star Wars, and there was a changing vision. I understand that, because behind the scenes, the sequel trilogy was shaped by significant creative shifts. Different directors brought different distinct visions to each installment, which resulted in stylistic and thematic variation. But while diversity in perspective can be a strength, in this case it just contributed to a lack of narrative continuity across the whole of the trilogy. It just got bad, it got worse, it was on the, like, I mean, yes, there's such a thing as a decline. This one went from that to that. So, what actually went wrong with the Star Wars sequels? The answer obviously lies, the answer is a combination of factors. Inconsistent planning, inconsistent characters, shifting creative direction, overwhelming expectations, and conflicting narrative goals. There is probably a list here, but I don't have an eternity to say. Rather than a single failure point, the trilogy struggled under the weight of trying to satisfy too many competing priorities at once. The Star Wars sequel trilogy wasn't without its strengths. It did have some strengths. I think I can count them on one hand, but it struggled to unify them into a consistently whole. Between legacy pressure, creative shifts, and narrative inconsistency, the trilogy just became one more divisive than definitive. And ultimately, it just stands as a reminder that even the biggest franchises need one clear vision to succeed. But without further ado, folks, that is the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it and didn't lose your head. But if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe and comment what you would like to see on the channel. But I hope you have an amazing day as always, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye, everyone.
Yeah.